Hey up, how do, and welcome to today's instalment of Loose Lips. This is, I believe, the third set of chats in series 2. So if you're new to this, I'm Ben Random, this is Loose Lips. It was created during the time of lockdown and quarantine to look to uplift the spirits of those who come into contact by speaking with different people from all walks of life across the globe. So people who come into contact with the actual chats to instill inspiration, optimism, and all that good juice flowing through the universe through them as well. So we completed series 1, which was crazy to think that when we started we would have done 47 chats there are in series 1, and you can catch all them on YouTube at Pop Cult Chic. Likewise, you can go on Instagram and go pop.cult.chic, and everything will be on there from series 1. We're also as well now on Spotify. Shout out to Nathan Sharp, who's in the group, who showed me that you could get it on Spotify as well. So yeah, all the first series is actually up on Spotify. So as I say, there's an array of incredible people, really some real good insight into life and uplifting tips, and just some good chats, man. So do get stuck into those. So as we roll now onto series 2, I'm going to be speaking today with Jono Ma. We're just waiting for him to come into the group. Most of you will recognise Jono as one of the founding members of Australian indie site group Jagwar Ma. I don't like putting like a label on them because they're so much more than that. They're an incredible unit, especially when you go see them live. Great mix of psychedelic dance influence as well. Crowds were always up for it, always beauty shows. So we're going to be shouting out Jono. We're just waiting for him to come to the group. I hope he's not falling asleep. We were meant to originally do the chat an hour later, because obviously he's now in Australia in Byron Bay, so the time difference was a bit crazy. So I asked for it to be an hour early, and here he is in the group. Shout out to everybody as well who's in the group. If you've got any questions that you want to point to us as well during this time, fully feel free to get involved. He sent the request. I'll just accept that. Let me just pin this bad boy as well. One sec, Jono, brother. Here we go. Yes. How are you, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. I've got to show you. I'm repping.
Nice.
Repping.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, mate. Perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Then we're locked in, mate. Honestly, I've wanted to get you on this for a long minute, man, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of admiration and respect for you in everything that you do involved in the music side. So I've seen you've been busy. That was a cool video that you posted up the other day. Like, it looked like The Walking Dead, where someone was walking up to like your barge or whatever, like
Yeah.
your hut, and then you just like rocking out. So have you still found time in this situation to crack on with the music?
Yeah, I'd say I've been making more music in the last few weeks than the past year. I mean, I don't know if you knew, but I was sort of running a club here in Byron Bay,
Yeah.
and that was taking up most of my time um over the past 12 months. And it was super fun, like basically like kind of like a boutique nightclub. It's about a 250 capacity venue. We had like floating points DJ there, hell in a half.
What, you meant to have a
Um,
secret set by Jamie XX?
yeah. I mean, that was literally the week that the club shut because of the sort of social distancing laws. I had a secret guest, which was Jamie XX. So it didn't happen.
No way.
He was in Japan. He was going to come to Australia, and then he just like, I mean, I guess he kind of made around that time when everyone was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Let's just get back to the place we hold a passport for. So
Yeah.
he just went back to London. I was in London at the time, then I came back home, and basically the day after I landed, everything just shut down.
I had
But
mates who were
since
trying to
then,
get back
since
from
then I've had
Australia.
loads of free time, and I've just been in the studio non-stop, basically cooking
Yeah,
and making music.
those are your two passions. Those are your two creative passions.
Well, I don't know if cooking's a creative passion, but I think it's a way of stopping me thinking about music.
You told me one time that you were a fiend in the kitchen. You said that you loved to create and get everybody around, and it was the communal aspect of it as well.
Yeah, kitchen jazz.
Yeah, yeah, man.
That's
So
it.
has it
That's
lifted
it.
up over there?
Things are starting to ease up a little. Yeah. Only in the last week. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, where we are in Byron, I mean, everyone's quite spread out. You know, it's not a metropolis. It's essentially like a coastal, semi-rural area, and I guess its population swells with tourism, and so as soon as the international borders were shut down, and then some of the state borders were closed, and obviously all the flights were restricted, so it just didn't have that influx of tourism that it normally has through the Easter holidays. So it sort of just felt like it was quite local and just like a local community, and it was just stripped back to that. And there wasn't that much panic. I mean, there was a bit of like sort of 5G conspiracy stuff
Yeah,
going
everyone's
on up.
getting that.
Yeah, there's a bit of that going on. But other than that, it was sort of kind of just like it was kind of like normal life here, but it just went down a couple of gears, and we were just really lucky. I feel like we maybe dodged the bullet, touch wood, and there wasn't like a sort of, crazy outbreak up here. It seems like maybe like all the distancing kind of kicked in just in time.
Yeah, man. It
How's it
seems
up
that.
there? How's it in Leeds? Are you in
Yeah, man
Leeds?
remembers. Yeah, I'm Leeds.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
Jon
know you're
Snow.
Leeds, but I
I'm
don't
the
know if you're
I'm the
still
king of
there
the
or if you've
north.
moved to
No, I'm
London.
the king of the north. So yeah, I still keep it real in Leeds, in Winterfell, in my
King of the
Winterfell
North.
era. But it's
I
cool
feel like
because
you're more like the rook of the North, because you slide along to Manchester and then back to Leeds.
that's me
You're
just
just
keeping check on my
moving east to
manners.
west,
I'm just
but
making
always
sure
staying
all my
north.
manners are all right.
Yeah.
No, it's all right, man. It's like I think the crazy thing at the minute is it's down to our own responsibilities of what we get up to because there's a lot of leeway. So it's like I think people are saying
Right.
that the government should be either a bit more solid with what they're rolling out as to what we should be doing, or
Right.
just let us back out. Really, it's a bit all over the shop. But I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling. Me personally, me and my cat are blessed. Like it's just I'm like you. I got my head in gear and I was like, I wanna connect. That's what I do. I realized I felt something that I wanted to connect and create something that could still reach out to people and uplift them at this time. And that's what these chats are about. And then I've started
Yeah.
developing other stuff, like I'm going to be doing a vlog and just other stuff to keep me busy. So me personally, I'm good. I feel the
Yeah.
city of Leeds is always good because it is the greatest city.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, like it's a weird one. I want obviously to crack back on and get back out there. I was meant to be coming to us again. I was going to be hitting you up because I was going to be doing
Right.
my tour again, and
Right.
I was
Stand
going
up
to
tour.
head to Byron and do it at your spot, but
Yeah,
that's
that
on
would have
back
been
burner.
wicked, man.
But yeah,
Oh
man,
well.
all to come. All is to come.
Yeah. And how are you coping with a postponed football season?
I didn't realize how much I missed it because I almost like pretended like it is what it is, and then I watched the Bundesliga on Saturday just gone, and that's when I was
Yeah.
watching. Did you catch that? I was watching the Bundesliga on Saturday just gone, and that's when I realized how much I missed it. So fingers crossed it'll be
Yeah.
back next month, and then we'll all be good. We'll all be good, and Arsenal will be in Champions League.
Yeah.
That's me goal. What were you back for in London? What were you back for?
Uh, well, to be honest, I was back for Andrew Weatherall's funeral.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, surely you heard the news, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you knew, but I shared a studio space with him in Tottenham. So yeah, for about 2 years, I had a room next to his in a sort of common area in this factory in Seven Sisters, Tottenham. And it was like Andrew's kind of R&D lab. It was like just research and development. He had another studio down south with Nina from the Woodley Research Facility, um, where he had some synths and stuff, and then basically this space was like all his records and books and like turntables and speakers and stuff like that. And so yeah, so we shared that space for a couple of years when I was living in London, and then I came back to Australia, um, and then fell ill and was unable to return to the UK. So basically, kind of put my life in storage remotely, and obviously we'd stayed in contact via email. And I was like looking at getting him out to Byron to play the club, which was like, that was like my benchmark gig. It was like, once I get Andrew Weatherall to Byron Bay to play a party here, then I can like check out. It's like I've done my deed, my good deed for Byron. Um, and then yeah, and then I took 2 weeks off because we'd just come out of the summer season, which is like nuts in Byron. Like the club was open 7 nights a week. We had like, crazy events like back to back, like nights in a row. And I was knackered. My brother had just had his first daughter. He lives in LA, so I just went to spend 2 weeks with him in LA. Got off the plane, and when I was mid-flight, the news broke that Andrew had passed away, and so turned on my phone and like 100 messages kind of pumped through. And then I spent a few days in LA, and I realized like I kind of needed to go back to London. I hadn't been back in 2 years. I'd lived there for 6 years, left unexpectedly, and then hadn't returned for 2 years. But then when that happened, I was like, okay, I have to go back.
Were you planning on
Um,
coming back,
no,
regardless of the situation?
no, there was no plan. Yeah, it was impromptu. It was just by chance that I was in LA, and had sort of dedicated like 2 to 3 weeks of just nothingness. So in a way, it was like strangely convenient in that sense that like I was in a position where I could just go, all right, I'm just going, even though I didn't know what the sort of arrangements were for like a service and all that. It was just like, okay, I need to go to that space. And it was really weird. I went back to the studio, and Timothy J. Fairplay had taken over my room. So I went to visit him and see how he was doing, and like there were ashtrays in there with Andrew's sort of half smoked joints still like the yeah, just sitting around, and everything was just as I'd left it, or as I remembered it, I should say. So it was quite a strange trip back to London, but the service was incredible. So and it was like a really good send off, and it felt like when I was in LA, like and I just heard the news, and um, I sort of felt pretty lost there because like in England, everyone knows who Andrew Weatherall is. In America, I don't know, maybe a few people in New York and LA, but it felt like no one sort of understood
The
like how
impact.
important, yeah, how
Mm.
important he was. and that was kind of like making me feel sort of detached and disenfranchised. So I was like, as soon as I got back to the UK, it felt like, yeah, there were people that I could talk to that understood the
There
sort
was
of
a shared
magnitude of the
somberness
situation.
in the reaction.
It really was, yeah, it really was. It was like, and that felt nice because it was, like he meant a lot to me. Was one of my main inspirations since I was a kid, musically, ethically, philosophically, and then the fact that we then became friends and I shared a studio
How
with
did
one
that
of my
come about?
heroes. It was actually via Ewan Pearson,
Yeah.
who mixed both the Jagwar Ma record. He basically mixed every Jagwar Ma track, and he and I met years ago in Sydney when he was DJing at a club, and he actually produced my band before Jagwar Ma, which was called the Valentinos, and then it was called the Los Valentinos, which is like a post-punk funk band. And so we met years before Jagwar Ma, and then he was actually the first person I kind of sent Come Save Me to, and I was like, well, like, check out this track, and he was like, this is good, man, I'll mix it for you. I was like, sweet. And then the rest is history. But so he and Andrew were friends. Andrew, there was only a handful of people that Andrew would DJ back to back with. Ivan Schmag, Optimo, a handful of others. But Ewan Pearson was in that very elite group that Andrew would do back to back sets with. So they knew each other through DJing and through music. And then Andrew had been evicted out of his studio space in Shoreditch, which he'd had for like 25, 30 years, like since the, back in the day. And he actually wrote this great article on Ransom Note about it, about gentrification in London, and it's very funny. And so he just moved from there and found this new factory space in Tottenham. And obviously there was a second room, and so he offered it to Ewan. And then Ewan had just moved into a new place in London, and he had a kid, and so he wanted to take the room, but he knew that he wasn't going to be there that much. So he then brought me in, and sort of like, vouched for me, and then immediately Andrew and I became friends, just by proxy, I remember when I first, when I first spent a day with him in the studio, it was like pretty intimidating because he's like, he's like, he doesn't suffer fools lightly, and he's essentially comes from a punk background, so I thought he was gonna like eat this Antipodean kid for breakfast, but he was like a true gentleman, and like even his record collection at first, I thought, okay, this is going to be off limits. I'm not gonna, but he was like straight off the bat. He just took me through and explained from left to right how everything was kind of he's like, that's like dub, 70s dub, more modern dub. That's 90s techno and rave. That's house. This is more new school stuff. That's more like worldy.
That must have been surreal.
Punk. Oh, it's wild, man. It's like it was like having my own like personal curated like boutique record store, like hand curated by like Andrew Weatherall's 40 years of gathering music.
And you were also there to talk you through it as well.
Yeah. And there was a constant influx as well. It wasn't even just it wasn't a static collection. It was like every week it was like updated with new shit. I walked through the door you know, on Monday morning, and he'd come running out and be like, "Have you heard this? Have you heard this? Have you heard this?" Just throw me 5 records, you know.
What
And
do you think
so
that's one thing
it felt
about his
like a
going?
master class. Like, it felt like a 2-year masters in, like, in acid house culture.
Do you think that's one of his greatest gifts was his everlasting enthusiasm, like the fact that he was still running out to you saying, "Look at what I found," because
Yeah.
that's one thing that really came out
Yeah,
in
he
his
never got
passing.
jaded. He was never, he was just a, like, had a childlike passion and thirst for music, and it never waned as far as I
Mm.
could see. I mean, I only knew him, like, closely for a few years, but from what I have heard, and from what I heard at the service, I mean, it's like in fact, I listened to an interview that someone posted
Was it the
an
one I tagged
interview of
you
him.
in?
May have been, it was 1990.
Ah, no, it weren't that one.
It was like 1990, and it was just like around, like, it was just before, I think, Loaded had come out. Like, you know,
Yeah.
the sort of, like, the track that changed everything for him and for Primal Scream. And I think he'd just done the Happy Mondays Hallelujah remix with Paul Oakenfold. So this interview is just between those two remix. I think he'd done Loaded, but it hadn't come out yet. And just, like, hearing him in that interview in 1990, you know, like, he sounded the same. Like everything, like the energy in his voice had not changed. It was just so fired up, and so thoughtful as well. Though so deep. You know, he always had 2 or 3 books on the go. Like, he's extremely well read, and you know, as a comedian, I'm sure you can appreciate. He's actually hilarious. I don't know if you've read any of his quotes, but he's a funny guy, man. Hilarious guy.
I didn't realise until he passed just how synonymous he was with the Leeds, with the city of Leeds. You know, with Back to
Yeah,
Basics and
yeah,
the early origins of it. And then we have a day like music creative festival called Inner City Electronic, and he was
yep,
meant to be doing a talk there and then performing, but it was the week of his passing, and then they turned it into like more of a memorial, like people speaking about him and, you know, celebrating his life. That was the link that I sent over. But yeah, the
yeah,
city
yeah.
of
I
Leeds.
saw that link. Yeah, no, this was a different interview, but
Mm,
yeah,
but the city of Leeds, I like, yeah. As soon as I like, you know, I've been blessed enough to be close friend, well, good friends now with like the likes of Ralph Lawson and Tristan da Cunha and Dave Beer and all that Back to Basics like crew. And that, yeah, everyone just holds him in such a high regard, and you could just see the outflowing, the just the way that it rocked everybody really. And I suppose it's only when certain people pass you realise the loss of what the legacy and the loss of what they've left.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
No,
it
it was a
felt with
big
him.
one. Yeah,
That's
it
what
was a
it
big.
felt with him.
Yeah, it was a big one. Definitely a big one for me.
Would you?
Still feeling the ripples of it, to be honest, because it was like, I actually remember it at the um at the wake, having a conversation with one of his family members, and it was like, we're sort of talking about, like, what's going to feel like tomorrow when you sort of, because I think everyone was sort of in shock up until, I think that's generally the sort of arc of, and I guess kind of the function of a funeral in some ways is it sort of like takes the shock, puts it into like reality, and then you
Mm,
get a chance to actually let go of the person. And it was like, it was really beautiful. The music was stunning all through the service. Um, and I was chatting, and we were talking about, like, how it would feel, like, what's the world going to feel like to us without Andrew in it, because it felt like he was just this constant. um I'd heard people sort of describe him as, like, he'll be like the cockroach after the
yeah.
nuclear apocalypse. Like, everyone he'll still be in his bunker, like, making techno and DJing, like he was immortal. um And it felt like, I mean, to me, because literally, like, the day after the funeral, I had to just get on a plane and get back to Australia because everything was like, ramping up. And and so it sort of felt like after he left, like the whole world just went to shit. Like the world is it's a completely different world. Like for me, it's like the pre-Weatherall world,
And the post Weatherall, that's it.
Yeah, yeah, pretty wild.
Would
Anyways,
you say, because I didn't know the situation of you being in like the studio with him, yet I remember like comparisons to early Primal with some of your records. Was that
yeah.
something that you would say is there as well, or was that just a coincidence?
No, I mean, absolutely, it's no coincidence. Like I said, one of the main inspirations for Jagwar Ma was Andrew Weatherall's like approach to music, like the combination of like the sort of punk ethic, punk energy, and sort of punk philosophy to music, like anything goes, but with this sort of considered sophistication of a rich vocabulary of music knowledge, but also at the core of it, the acid house ethos and ecstasy, and like not the drug but the sensation
Feeling,
of like
yeah.
the ecstatic, and trying to seek transcendence through repetitive beats, which was something that Weatherall was the master of, and that definitely was in the DNA of Jagwar Ma, from conception. It was like, but it wasn't specifically let's sound like Screamadelic. It was more general than that, and I think there are a few like parallels between the stuff that we were listening to when we were making Howlin', and I later found out that Primal Scream were listening to a lot of similar stuff, Northern Soul, a lot of Phil Spector, Wall of Sound stuff, loads of 60s soul, Detroit soul, um, and then experimenting with samplers and synthesizers. But at the core of it being a rock band, so there's definitely parallels, because like me, Gab and Jack, we all played in rock bands before Jagwar Ma. I'm obviously like really into technology and synthesizers and samplers, and I have a huge soul collection of music as well. So the foundations are really similar.
I remember when I were speaking with Gab, and he said that one of his vocal inspirations was Sam Cooke, and that was the era of like singer that he was really going for. So I can see how those worlds all merge as one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so what's the plan with Jaguar at the minute? Is it on ice? Is it
Well, well, I mean you know, oh my battery is running low.
Hey,
Um,
I thought we were gonna
that
get a
that
world
that'll
exclusive
be
and
the
he's
end of the
just gone.
conversation.
I was like, no! Macaulay Culkin face was like, ah!
um, well, Gab's in LA, Jack's in London, and I am in Byron Bay. So, um, you know, it's not done. It's definitely not done. But at the moment, I'm like, I've just come out of like 2 years of like, getting this club up and running and DJ, really focusing on DJing. Um, and I'm just now starting to get back into production and literally like post Corona, like I haven't stopped making music again. So I don't know, maybe some of it will end up future Jagwar Ma stuff. Maybe some of it's something else. I'm not sure. It sort of depends. I guess it sort of technically becomes Jagwar Ma once Gab sings on it. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Because obviously Gab's doing Golf Alpha Bravo,
That's
which
right,
is
yeah.
cool, man. Like surf rock vibes.
Yeah, super cruisy surfer rock
Yeah,
vibes. Yeah.
yeah.
And Jack's playing
Jack's
in
in
Foals.
Foals. Like what?
He literally went from making what I heard from all accounts terrible, terrible coffee in a terrible cafe in East London.
Yeah.
Like, literally, he went from touring with Jagwar Ma to just making coffee for a year, bad coffee, and doing sweet fuck all creatively. And then it was funny because Yannis and I are friends, and my brother did all the Foals film clips early on. So I've known the Foals guys well before Jagwar Ma as well. And Yannis called me up and he was like, dude, we're looking for a new bass player, blah, 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 blah. And so I ended up, putting in a good word for Jack, like, really bigging him up, like, yeah, he'll definitely nail this, blah, 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 blah. And then he did the auditions, got the part, and and this is the thing, he, made shitty coffee for a year, 2 years maybe, actually, longer than a year, just doing nothing but making crap coffee. Then finally, and I hope Jack's watching this, finally, he gets the thrown the lifeline from Foals, and then has the Asia tour booked, plays one show, the first show, like stadium show in, I think, Singapore or something like that. And then Corona kicks in, everything just gets cancelled. So now he's just back at home doing nothing again. He was this close to being a rock star.
That is mad. That is mad. Because I seen he did a charity gig for him. I think it was
That's right.
Was it the war cancer? I think war
I'm
charity.
not
I
sure.
think that's what it's called. But I think he was performing there, and then I was like, "Go on, Jack, lad, yes." Is it Foals? Like what the?
Yeah.
Like
No, but he'll be really looking forward to the laws being lifted and live music kind of, operating as it was, if it can get that back to that point. But he'll be itching to get out there and play some arenas, some rock and roll arenas.
He was getting onto his DJing as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen or heard him DJing that much, so he did come. Actually, he came to he and I played a fun little back-to-back set at my club in Byron on a Sunday night. And Sundays are sort of traditionally a bit quieter, obviously, like Friday and Saturday, the big nights. So we were just having fun, and he was just playing some like Brazilian records, and I was just sort of following his lead. And then these two guys kept like sort of falling on the DJ booth, not bumping the record. That those guys that bump the records and that spill beer on the mixer, and so these two guys are doing that, and I ended up just sort of pushing one like he had his back on the booth, and I just sort of pushed him off the booth, and he turned around and it was Matt Damon, and
Sure.
it was Matt Damon, and who was the other guy? Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth.
What,
There was two
what
guys
happened
that
then?
were like knocking.
Did he go
knocking
Jason
the record.
Bourne on you?
Huh?
Did he give you a Jason Bourne look like, don't push
No,
me again, man?
no, I don't think I don't think he even knew that it was me that pushed him. I think he just lost his. He thought he just lost his balance. They were well refreshed, let's just say.
That's class. I've got a question. Well, a point's coming from Dr. Zoe Callahan, I believe. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. They've said that Saturday in the Rain at Glastonbury on the park stage was special, Jono. Thanks for the memories. And I have to say that
I remember it.
That set like for me, I'd got into Glastonbury on the Saturday, so I didn't have a ticket, and like me and Glastonbury have a secret way of just like always managing to get in, like manifesting
Yeah.
it.
You and
And
everyone. Yeah.
it's true though, isn't it? You know,
It's
like
true.
once you
Yeah.
like take that into
Totally.
your heart, it's there with
Totally.
you forever.
I'm
And
always like talking to my friends before. I'm always like they're like, oh, I don't have a ticket. I'm like, just get in the van. Let's just go. You're coming. Like we're
yeah,
gonna find a way. Yeah.
it's so true. You find a way. So this year
Yeah.
was a lot simpler. Well, sorry, the year of that park stage set was a lot simpler than some of the other years, which I won't get into. But literally, I got in and I thought yous were playing on the Friday, and I was gutted all the way there. Like I was like, oh, they're playing on the Friday. I've missed them. I knew I was getting there on the Saturday, so I managed to get in at 3:30. And then the plan was, no, I probably got to the tents about like 4:30 and stuff. And then I was like, everyone's like, well, we're going to see Jagwar Ma. I'm like, they played yesterday. They're like, no, they're playing now in Park. I'm like, what the? Are you same bolted it straight to the Park stage, bro? I'm telling you, like, all that, like, pent up excitement of just getting into Glastonbury. Then you boys came, and Gab said some of the most profound words, right? And he stuck true. He was like, in the words of George Harrison, all things must pass. And the rain, like, kept, once that rain went, it was that were it. It was like, you were like, Jesus, like, don't worry, man, don't worry. But if
Yeah.
you watch it back, right, on BBC iPlayer, the amount of people are just going off it in that rain, mate. Like, you know, you were saying before about like that feeling that you want from your music to take people to a heightened state. That gig there, someone needs to bottle that, put it in a time capsule, and show future generations that, because that everybody. I mean, someone like, you know, like Dr. Zoe Callahan said it. Anyone who was there knew that they felt it. It was sick, bro.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah,
one.
we felt it. I mean, the thing is, like, you know, like, there aren't that many festivals around the world that um, have a crowd that can embrace something like rain and just turn it into energy. Like, you know, I don't know. There's something special about Glastonbury for that reason. Like, it's the muddiest, wettest, most, you know, on paper, it's the most miserable place to be on earth, but it's literally people's energy and attitudes that turn it into, you know, heaven for
So true.
a 7-day period. It's incredible. That's why I love it, you know.
And then a few years after, you DJ'd at Williams Green as well, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. DJ there, and then also up at the Crow every Sunday. I for the last 5 or 6 years, I did the closing set on the Crow's Nest, which is the highest vantage point of the festival, and so I would play from 10 p.m. to like until I had no more records left. So like, you know, 7 a.m. or something like that. And man, fuck, some of those sets were just wild.
That hike to
Absolutely
get
wild.
up to there is crazy.
Yeah, it's like higher up than the park stage.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone up, like all the highest people end up at the highest point. So it's very fun to DJ at. But I missed the last one, and then the year before that was the kind of rest year.
Follow, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been, and then I was going to go this year. That was going to be my return to the UK. You know, I had it all planned. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to London at some point this year, go to Glastonbury, go see Andrew, you know, like finish the train, go back to the Dagobah system, finish the training with Andrew, and then, yeah, everything, like, everything is fucking completely on its head now.
Do you think, in a creative sense, though, like you say, you're back now producing, and you know, when you stuck to DJing, was that a conscious point? Like you wanted to stay away from producing? Did you burn yourself out?
No, no, it wasn't. It was just like, you know, I've kind of always just sort of played the sort of cards in hand, and you know, even Jagwar Ma was not planned. It was like just a, you know, I made Come Save Me, made the clip for it, put that out, and then it just snowballed into this thing, and I just kind of ran with it. Similarly, when I moved to Byron, it was just to get healthy again, because like I said, I got really ill with a chronic illness. And so moving to Byron was literally just part of a healing process. You know, like, okay, I'm just going to take a year off. You know, I'd been touring for 6 years nonstop. And then when I wasn't touring, I was like in the studio. When I wasn't in the studio, I was in a club DJing. You know, we were touring all around the world, lots of flights, lots of sleepless nights. So I was like, I'm just going to do nothing for a year. And Byron's like a great place to do nothing. Because there's rainforests, there's waterfalls, there's beaches.
There's your frog.
There's frogs.
Tell us about your frog.
To be honest, it's not just one. It's like it's lots of, there's like loads of green tree, but everyone assumes it's one, and I've never said that it's one, but it's funny that everyone thinks that it's one.
It's the same one. It's the same one
because everyone wants it to be the one frog, but. I mean, I think that there's maybe, I don't know, there's probably been a dozen different frogs in those posts.
So for anyone who's watching, what we're on about with the frog is Jono gets visited in his showers by this one frog, and they've become best friends, and he can like pick it up and put it under the shower and strokes it.
Yeah, I love those frogs, man. They're so beautiful. Green tree frog.
So has Byron done what it's wanted for you then? Has it re-energized you? And also, like you said, you've been able to bring celebrated musicians to an area which might not have had it before as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. And just going back to your last question, the conscious decision to focus on DJing, no, it was more like I said, moved up to Byron, and then this opportunity just came up where some people that I knew had taken over the lease of this nightclub that had a music license, and it had a late license. And there's only a handful of late licenses in Byron, like maybe 3 or 4. And they were all from the food. They were all foodies, restaurateurs. They'd set up cafes and restaurants. They'd never set up a nightclub. And so I was friends with them, and I just sort of asked them, well, what have you got planned for the musical direction of the venue? And they were like, well, we haven't really thought about that. We've just been focusing on the menu. And I was like, you got like a 3 a.m. music license. When are you opening? And they're like, we're opening in 6 weeks. I was like, you need help. And so then I got involved, and then I designed the sound system, came up with the sort of the musical direction and music policy, scouted all the like talent in Byron, like the local DJs that were kind of switched on to the good stuff.
Do you fly from any other places or from Australia over as well?
Yeah, we had loads of guys coming up from Melbourne. So we had Griff, who's fantastic. Francis Inferno Orchestra and his mate, fantastic man. Came through. Gus from Multiculti. We had Ed Fisher and Simon from Waxer Paradiso, CC Disco. I mean, everyone, like loads. Ben Fester from Sydney. Loads of DJs coming through. Great crew from Brisbane as well were coming down. And then obviously through the contacts I'd made from Jagwar Ma, I was able to get people like Sam from Floating Points and, a bunch of international DJs as well. So it became like, it wasn't like I planned it. It just, the opportunity arose and it just felt right. And it felt like a good transition back from like literally like rehabilitation back into, the world of music. I'd kind of always like, I love 24-hour Party People, the film, and there's the Hacienda chapter, and I had always sort of in my head felt like I need to have a Hacienda chapter in my legacy, you know what I mean? That really was the hacienda, my hacienda chapter, because it was like, I'd never like been on that side of a club. Like I essentially became a promoter and a sort of the music manager of a music venue. And I was there every night, and every DJing there every Friday and Saturday. So I had this residency in this great club with great sound system, and so it was great because my DJing skills definitely got honed and vastly improved.
Do you
But
think as
also,
well,
I was able
subconsciously?
to, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, you go, you go.
I was going to say that the other thing is it also allowed me to really connect in a big way and in a quick way with the community. Because when I first moved up, I was just lying really low. I was just kind of staying at home. I wasn't really going out much. I was spending a lot of time in nature, but not a lot of time socializing. And so, yeah, it really established myself in the community. I got to know everyone and felt a part of the sort of Byron Bay community, and more specifically the Byron Bay music community, and felt like I was able to contribute a lot to that community. And so then the community kind of really embraced and got behind what I was trying to do at Locura, which was really, really inspiring. And so now that the club is no longer, I feel like I'm able to sort of run with the inertia of that inspiration, and now it's sort of transformed into a more of a studio environment. And now I guess the focus is to output music.
Do you feel that the music that you've been playing as well subconsciously will influence what you're making at the moment in the future Jaguar records?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And that's the great thing about DJing is it just
Yeah.
keeps you wired into the zeitgeist, because there's like, I mean, like the art of reading a room, which is sort of integral to like being a good DJ, is you're essentially, it's like market research. Like you're seeing on a large, semi-large scale how people are reacting to different tempos, different rhythms, different sounds, different genres, different styles, different songs. And so all that stuff I think is what's helping propel sort of creative burst forward now. Is it's the instinct is there, because when you're sort of DJing, twice a week, sometimes 7 nights a week, in the one space but with different people. So it's like a controlled experiment with a large number of participants. I was definitely able to like explore new territory musically on the dance floor, and get a new, like, re-update my instinct for what works and what doesn't.
Sounds exciting. Sounds
Yeah,
exciting
man.
for the future of Jaguar. Because you
Yeah.
also, though, you've been collaborating with the likes of Floating Points as well, haven't you?
Uh, I have. We haven't done anything official. Like he put out a track that was called Kurabel, which was named after. Um, it's a suburb in Byron Bay, just up in the hills, which is where my studio was, and he just kind of fell in love with that. Um, I mean, he just loved it. I mean, anyone would fall in love with it. It's one of the most beautiful parts of the world. Um, and So he had a track on his most recent record called Kurabel, named after that, his experience when he came and hung out with me and DJ'd at the club, and we went surfing and all this sort of stuff. And then earlier this year, we actually put on a live event. So Floating Points was playing live in the Kurabel School of Arts, which is this little tiny, like, 19th century hall up in the hills. Um, and yeah, I guess we collaborated on that event, in a way. Because he brought in his visual team, and I brought in like a big Function One sound system, and I put together a sort of band, and we did the warm up set. But we haven't released music together. Yeah.
I didn't know if behind the scenes there was something that was like imminent to be dropped from you.
I mean, maybe. I mean, we definitely. I mean, I'd love to like do something, but we always just hang out, and we spend a lot of time like when I was in London for Andrew's service, I was staying with Sam, and we spent a lot of time cooking because he loves food as well. God, I think in fact that's all we do. We just spend time cooking and eating. No, but we spend a lot of time listening to records, and we I guess talk. We exchange a lot on the technical side. So we're all, like talking about process and equipment essentially. Like we're just geeking out on synths, more so than writing music together. But maybe one day. I mean, we did have a few little synth jams that may or may not eventuate into something.
The final one from me, brother, as I did say to you, it'd be 20 minutes, and we've almost gone for an hour, but that's how I
Oh
hooked you
shit!
in. But no, thank you. Is the Rudy has put up saying, and then you can drop the Jurassic Park theme, 6 a.m. crows in the crow's nest. Now, I'm a brother who loves to do stuff like that as well. So, when you get to play like the end theme of Jurassic Park at a venue, you know that the crowd's with you. But I
Yeah,
suppose one of the prevalent parts of the conversation's been Andrew Weatherall, and I thought for the final like 3-4 minutes of the chat, if
yeah.
you want to cover off one of the parts where I think he was warming up, not warming up, but he played a DJ set before one of your London shows, and you was talking about an exchange that you did while you were setting up for Jagwar and he was finishing up.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that was like such a pivotal moment. Anyways, just the fact that Andrew was, again a parallel to Primal back in the '90s. He was their warm up DJ when they were touring around the world, when they were the sort of hottest band on the scene. And Andrew was warming up for Jagwar Ma at in our London show, like which was essentially had become our hometown. And he played this incredible set where it was like, and this is one of the things about Andrew, like he'll play a set of music that isn't like, other DJs, you're like, oh, what is this? What is this track? This is a cool track. This is obviously house music. But with Andrew, it's not even what is this track. It's like, what fucking music is this? Like, what genre is this? Like I don't even know where you'd find this shit. And so he played an absolute blinder of a set, and then and we had no conversation about, like, prior to this, like how he was going to end his set and then we were going to start ours. So instead I just kind of walked out when he was kind of like, you know deconstructing his set. Like he ended on this kind of like guitar feedback thing, and this like sort of ambient, timeless, meterless drum. Like it's like this real avant-garde, twisted, like druggy um, wail. And so I just went out and started kind of making.
Oh, one sec. See if we can get him back. Thank you, everybody who's been locked in as well. If you're new to this is Pop Cult Chic. We're speaking with Jono Ma. Just had a bit of issues with the signal, but he'll come back and we'll be able to get the end of that story, no doubt. If you want to catch up on any of the previous chats, then go to Pop Cult Chic on YouTube. Let's see if we can get him back. He's just put in the group that he's going to finish that story another time. But to be fair, I could have spoke for him for another hour anyway. So who knows? We could get another chat locked in with Jono Ma. Appreciate his time, him opening up, getting stuck into everything that he did in that chat. Thank you for everybody who's been present as well. Yeah, we'll see if we can get him back another time. So either follow it on his Insta or follow it on mine, which is at Ben Random. And as I say, this is Loose Lips. It's been created during lockdown, but it's going to continue after. It's chatting with people from all different walks of life across the globe, just looking to celebrate and put in everything that we can do to instill optimism and just get everybody feeling good about life. So that's what we aim to do. So find us on YouTube, Pop Cult Chic, or also on Instagram, pop.cult.chic. Thank you, Kane, Ryan Taylor. Thank you for listening on. Thank you, C. Belius. Nice one. And everyone else who came through with any comments as well. I'm going to actually be back in like 4 minutes doing a chat with myself. Going to be doing a live Q&A if anyone wants to come through to that. And then at 3 o'clock, we've got a chat with Mickey Slim, former DJ and producer who is now the manager of Todd Edwards, Grammy Award winning Todd Edwards and Example. So yeah, get stuck into that. Shout out Ross as well. Big ups. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Peace and light.